Okay, so this game Fisch has been blowing up lately. Like 300,000 players right now? That's insane. And because of its immense popularity, I decided what if I took that game but made it realistic inside of Roblox? But hold on. I have not really played this game before, so let's go check it out and see what I'm getting myself into. Okay, so it looks like you fish. Bro, this is gonna be easy. Okay, so the first thing to do was obviously create a brand new game, and oh, this is so ugly. This is not realistic at all. One of the best ways to sell a realistic game is to make good lighting, and that's something I happen to be really good at. Yeah, so I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna follow a tutorial by this guy on YouTube. Yeah, so huge shout out to RK Games for making this awesome tutorial. I'll leave his channel link down in the description. With the tutorial, I was able to make some decent looking lighting with some good depth of field and some atmosphere, so it made it look a little foggy in the distance. It looked really cool, but it was definitely not ready yet. So let's keep on working. Okay, so realistic lighting was one thing, but the other thing was gonna be the map, and I didn't exactly know how to make that realistic, so I decided to use Roblox's terrain system, which I'm kind of mixed about. It's okay, but it's not great, but it'll have to do. But before we get to that, let's hop into Blender so I can make some models and prove my build worthiness. Build worthy? What? I'm going to start by making a dock like in the actual Fisch game. I'm going to try to add some details to it, like little notches in the wood and a couple different screws just to kind of, make it look a little bit more realistic. But we're just going to have to see how it turns out. And bada bing bada boom, we've got a dock. It doesn't look fantastic, but it'll do. Next, I used Roblox's terrain system and made an island with sand and water all around it, and I put the dock right in the middle, and I gotta say, it already looks great with the lighting and the water and the reflections and all that. I think it's starting to turn out pretty good. I also took some lanterns from the toolbox. I know using the toolbox is lame, but I'm not a modeler, I'm a scripter, so whatever. Okay, so now we have a dock that looks pretty decent, I guess, with some water and some sand around it, and we have basically a finished map for the players. Now, I actually thought I was using PBR materials, which by the way stands for professional bull riders. PBR stands for physically based rendering, which is sometimes known as physically based shading, and it's a method of shading and rendering that provides a more accurate representation of how light interacts with material properties. Yes, I remembered that all in my head. Definitely did not use Google, haha. But it turns out I was just using regular Roblox materials. Yeah, so it doesn't look as good as it could, but oh well. Anyway, now we had the map, but it was time to make something that was kind of, just a little tiny bit important to this game. And that is the fish. I know, just a super small detail. It's not like it's in the title of the game name. Okay, so let's hop back into Blender to prove once again my model worthiness. Now, as is evident from the terrible dock I made, I am not good at making realistic looking models. So I'm just gonna have to hope that putting a good texture on it will somehow help it to look more realistic. And yeah, case in point, my model looked horrible. I mean, it started out looking like this, and then it looked like this. Like, what on earth even is that? I messed around with it for a little while and finally got it looking, I guess, decent. This is what I turned out with, and let's go ahead and texture it now. Now, fortunately for me, you can make a terrible model look decent by using a good texture. And I decided to use my pro Photoshop skills to make my very own Wait, what are you doing? What? I'll get out of here. You know we're not doing that. So I found this texture online. Well, it's really just a picture of a fish, but it's royalty free, which means I can use it for free for this game. So yeah, let's use that and slap it onto the fish. There's no way that this is gonna look cursed, right? Like, it's gonna look amazing. Like, here, let's just see. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm literally gonna have nightmares after this. This is so bad. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, oh, it's not that bad, Code Bro. Yeah, it's totally not that bad. And that's definitely what you're thinking, and that's not just me coping with my terrible texturing skills. I'm glad you think the fish looks good, so we're gonna use it in the game. I imported it into Studio, and there we go. Now we have a whatever this is. Now we can finally get into the stuff I'm good at, the scripting. The first thing I wanted to do was add some fish in the water already that were kind of swimming around, because I think that would add to the realism of it all. So I made this little animation in the script that would basically turn the fish this way and that, and it would kind of, yeah, swim in the water. And here's how it ended up looking. Now, it looks really unrealistic from inside the water, but because players are fishing above the water and it looks good from the top, I think it'll work. So now it looks like there are fish actually swimming in the ocean, which is great. That's gonna add to the realism a little bit. Now, there's one problem with this project, and that's that it's totally unoriginal. So I decided to retheme the game a bit, so it's not just the same as Fisch, but realistic. I added a twist to it, and basically here's how it's gonna go. I went with a pirate theme for this game, so everybody's gonna play as a pirate who, for whatever reason, is deciding to to take a break for the day with treasure hunting and go fish. So basically each player or pirate had their own island in the game, and then there was one center island in the middle of the map where all the players could take their ships and go sell their fish for money. This makes the game a lot more unique, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So with that said, I think it's time that we start making the center island. In the very center of the ocean, I made this giant island out of sand and rock, and then put some trees and dirt near the trees on top of the island. I also added a red X on the sand just to kind of enforce that pirate theme in the game. Next, I needed a booth for players to sell their fish at. Because I had so much to do, I decided to use a free model and hopefully come back to fix that later. Oh, and to help with the game realism, I made the game first person and also so that you could see your arms and body. It made it look like an actual first person game, which I was pretty thrilled about. Okay, so the dock was done and the center island was done. Now it's time to actually script the fish system. This was probably my favorite part of the challenge because I really like scripting, and I'm obviously not a modeler. The basic script I made contained a remote event, a server script, and a client script. Now, I could totally nerd out on you guys about what that means, but I know you probably don't want that, so I'm gonna give a basic summary. Basically, the script detects any clicks from a player and then sends a message to the server. You can kind of think of that as the actual game. The clients are the players on the game, and the server is the actual game itself, hosted by Roblox. So essentially, whenever the player clicked the mouse, I sent a message over to the server and was like, hey, they're trying to fish, and then the script played a little animation that cast the rod out. Wait, the rod? No, it's the line. Cast the line out into the water, and then we picked a random fish based on certain values and weights. This allowed me to make different rarities of the fish. For example, I made a goldfish, and that one had an 80% chance of catching. After that, I basically just cloned the fish and welded it to the rope, and then you could actually like pick up the fish out of the water. Basically, it'll bring it back to you, and you can click again to drop the fish on the dock. And just like that, we had the entire system for the fishing scripted and done. By the way, I'm thinking of making a fishing system and putting it up on my website for you guys to purchase that'll be super easy to use and modify. If you guys want me to do that, leave a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. By the way, on my website, codebro29.shop, I sell assets, scripts, models, etc. for low prices. You can go ahead and check it out if you'd like, but I'm not gonna bore you guys with a 10-minute ad, so let's just go ahead and keep going with the video. I also added the other islands around the map, and they kind of formed a circle around the center island, which was cool because it felt like all the players were connected even though they had their own islands. Also, I think it's finally time to do something with this disgusting base plate. And if you've seen my other videos, you may know what I'm gonna have to do to it. I'm gonna destroy that base plate and never let it see the light of day again. Instead of having a base plate, I made the entire thing water so that it felt like you were actually in the middle of an ocean, and I think this really helped with the whole vibe of the game. I also wanted to add some UI because currently when you got a fish, you couldn't tell what fish you actually received. So let's go ahead and make that UI. Now again, if you've seen my videos, you know I'm not a UI designer, I'm a scripter, but I'm gonna try my best anyway. I used a couple layers of the text labels and basically made this cool little 3D effect with the text that showed you both the fish that you got as well as the rarity of catching that fish. Next, I made a script that would just check to see what the rarity of the fish you got was, and then it would apply it to the text label. And there we go, now you can catch the fish and actually see what you get. And yeah, that's basically the core of the game. That's kind of Fisk, or Fish, but realistic. If you guys want me to actually finish this game and make it into a full game to release to you guys, let me know, I'm down to do that. Other than that, super appreciate you watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a huge shout out to Yucktpie, Extus, Pear, and Deja Vu for supporting me on Patreon or directly on my channel. If you want to get your name shouted out at the end of my videos, you can do so by heading to the Patreon down in my description or click the join button on my channel to join as a member. You get some really cool perks too. Yeah, and other than that, make sure to join my Discord server. That link is also down in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one.